Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, we are here for the lecture on uh, chapter number 5. This will be the part 3 of the series of lectures that we are covering, chapter number 5. So, in this chapter, we'll be covering three topics, or we'll try to cover these three topics. We are discussing the topic of contemporary hardware infrastructure, and in that, we'll be covering grid computing, virtualization, and cloud computing. So, what is grid computing? Grid computing involves connecting geographically remote computers into a single network to create a virtual supercomputer by combining the computational power of all computers on the grid. Right. So basically, here what we are trying to establish a grid. Yani we are connecting different computers into a single network. The idea is to create a virtual supercomputer. Actually, grid computing takes advantage of the fact that most computers in the United States use their central processing units on average only 25% of the time for the work they have been assigned, leaving these idle resources available for other processing tasks. Grid computing was impossible until high speed internet connections enabled firms to connect remote machines economically and move enormous quantities of data. Grid computing requires software programs to control and allocate resources on the grid. Okay, so basically here what the idea of grid computing is कि जी जो आपके पास computing resources हैं और वो use नहीं हो रहे हैं, जैसे यहाँ पे बताया कि on average they are used 25%, on average 25% of the computing resources are used, 75% resources जो है वो idle पड़े हैं. So if we can somehow connect these together, so we can create a virtual supercomputer. And now, how they can be connected? Obviously, for that we need high-speed internet. So high-speed internet की availability की वजह से ये it became possible. This idea became practical, and that led to the origin to the creation of this grid computing. The business case for using grid computing involves cost saving, speed for computation, and agility. For example, Royal Dutch Shell Group is using a scalable grid computing platform that improves the accuracy and speed of its scientific modeling applications to find the best oil reservoirs. This platform, which links 1024 IBM servers running Linux, in effect, creates one of the largest commercial Linux supercomputers in the world. So one of the commercial application यहाँ पे उन्होंने इसकी example दी है grid computing की, which is used by Shell Group. They are using this grid computing platform for the discovery of their for exploring the oil reservoirs. तो ये एक application है जो वो use कर रहे हैं और उसको कह रहेंगे that is the one of the largest commercial Linux supercomputer in the world. The grid adjusts to accommodate the fluctuating data volumes that are typical in this seasonal business. Shell Group claims that the grid has enabled the company to cut processing time for seismic data while improving output quality and helping its scientists pinpoint problems and finding new oil supplies. ठीक है, तो this grid has helped them, as earlier we discussed in the previous bullet. If you see the business case for grid computing, क्यों इसको support किया जा रहा है grid computing को? क्योंकि that is something which save your cost, or it increase your speed of computation, and it is agile as well. तो ये वो सारी एडवांटेजेस हैं जिसके लिए उन्होंने ये एक ग्रिड कंप्यूटिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट अप्लाई किया रॉयल डच शेल ग्रुप ने, और उसको वो दे आर यूजिंग फॉर एक्सप्लोरेशन ऑफ ऑयल रिजर्व्स. ऑब्वियसली अ लॉट ऑफ डाटा इज इन्वॉल्व्ड, तो वो डाटा की प्रोसेसिंग दैट नीड्स अ सुपर कंप्यूटर, तो वो सुपर कंप्यूटर ने दे हैव formed it by using a grid. Okay, here I'll share you with you a small video in which this the concept of this grid computing is explained. So let's go along and see how this concept is explained here.
while increasing productivity. You might think you owned a supercomputer, and in today's on-demand world, it can feel like you need one, just to get the detailed results, always faster, always more accurately, that make you competitive in the marketplace. The good news? IT components you may already own: mainframes, Unix servers, Intel servers, databases, storage systems, even desktop computers and workstations harbor enormous untapped processing and storage power. Power you can easily start pulling together and dedicating to your most pressing business problems. This is IBM Grid Computing. How does grid computing unleash the power of existing systems? The typical IT deployment. Before Grid, a powerful application runs on a designated server. During peak cycles, that server can get overworked and the application can slow, wait.
Okay, so this uh, the grid computing. This video you can I'll share it with you in the presentation, and you can go through this video to see that how IBM has created the grid and what is the advantage of that. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide, which is next uh, contemporary hardware trend is virtualization. Virtualization is the process of presenting a set of computing resources, such as computing power or data storage, so that they can all be accessed in a way that are not restricted by physical configuration or geographical location. Okay, so here again in virtualization, we are uh, connecting our computing resources, which might be geographically scattered into. So the idea here is that virtualization enables a single physical resource, such as a server or storage device, to appear to the user as multiple logical resources. For example, a server or mainframe can be configured to run many instances of an operating system so that it acts like many different machines. So, virtualization, this type of virtualization where you have one server and you have configured it to run many instances, so it will be one to many. ठीक है ना, एक सर्वर है उसको आपने इस तरीके से वर्चुअलाइजेशन की टेक्निक यूज करके उसके अंदर जो है आपने यू आर रनिंग multiple instances of operating system, so that and the users they feel like they there is one dedicated server for them rather. So there might be more than there might be more than one client who are linked who are using this server. So all of those clients, they will feel like they have a dedicated server, but that is not the case. It is only one server, एक ही single, yes, एक ही server है, लेकिन उनको ऐसे appear हो रहा है जैसे there are multiple servers running there. Virtualization also enables multiple physical resources, such as storage devices or servers, to appear as a single logical resource, as as would be the case with storage area networks or grid computing. Virtualization makes it possible for a company to handle its computer processing and storage using computing resources housed in remote locations. अब ये पहला वाला जो था that was one to many example of one to many virtualization. This is example of many to one. ठीक है, बहुत सारी आपके पास your data is stored on multiple locations. ठीक है, but you feel like it is all stored in one location, and that is possible because of virtualization. Also, the previous concept that we discussed about grid computing, there also we had multiple servers, there also we had multiple databases, but all of them, they were connected together through the grid. So that was also possible by virtualization. So virtualization, you can say grid computing is one of the application of virtualization. VMware is the leading virtualization software vendor for Windows and Linux servers. By providing the ability to host multiple systems on a single physical machine, virtualization helps organizations increase equipment utilization rates, conserving data center space and energy usage. Okay, now, here are the advantages, okay, why the businesses will look into virtualization, while they will be interested in virtualization. ठीक है, उसके advantages बता दिए कि they virtualization increase equipment utilization rate, वो हमने ग्रिड कंप्यूटिंग के केस के अंदर भी देखा था कि नॉर्मली जो आपके कंप्यूटर रिसोर्सेज हैं 25% यूटिलाइज होते हैं, 75% आइडल होते हैं। तो वर्चुअलाइजेशन के जरिए से अगेन वी आर यूटिलाइजिंग दोज आइडल रिसोर्सेज, कंजर्विंग डाटा सेंटर स्पेस। ठीक है, डाटा सेंटर आप अगर सिंगल डाटा सेंटर होगा तो इट विल बी टू क्राउडेड, तो आपने उसको मल्टीपल लोकेशंस पे शिफ्ट कर दिया, तो यू आर सेविंग दैट स्पेस, एंड as well as you are saving your energy as well. Most servers run at just 15 to 20% of capacity, and virtualization can boost server utilization up to 70% or higher. Higher utilization rates translate into fewer computers required to process the same amount of work. ठीक है, तो जब आप ए, एक कंप्यूटर पे ही जो आपका एक रिसोर्स है उसको जब आप पूरे तरीके से यूटिलाइज कर रहे होंगे तो आपको ज़्यादा रिसोर्सेज की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। तो यहाँ पे भी अगर आप जैसे इन्होंने कहा कि जी सर्वर जो है 15 to 20% यूज़ होता है, तो अगर आप उसको 70% पे ले जाते हैं तो यू अगर आप अदरवाइज इफ दैट इज नॉट डन तो यू नीड 3 servers to get that 70% output. But because of virtualization, only one single server can do that. Okay, so the next is virtualization also facilitates centralization and consolidation of hardware administration. It is now possible for companies and individuals to perform all of their computing work using a virtualized IT infrastructure, as is the case with cloud computing. So you can uh, centralize and consolidate hardware administration. ठीक है, तो बजाय इसके कि आपको ज़्यादा equipment required है, you can use lesser equipment and perform all your required tasks by using the technique of virtualization. ठीक है जी, तो वर्चुअलाइजेशन जो है ना ये एक टेक्निक है जिसके ज़रिए से आप अपने कंप्यूटिंग रिसोर्सेज को ज़्यादा बेहतर तरीके से यूज़ कर सकते हैं। और इसमें वन टू मैनी की ऑप्शन है, जिसमें एक सर्वर है बट यू कैन रन कर क्रिएट मल्टीपल इंस्टेंसेस ऑफ दैट, एंड देन वी हैव मैनी टू वन कि आपके डाटा सेट जो है वो डिफरेंट लोकेशंस पे स्टोर्ड है, आप इट ऑल अपीयर्स एज वन टू द यूजर, तो वो आपके पास दैट इज पॉसिबल बिकॉज ऑफ वर्चुअलाइजेशन। एडवांटेजेस हमने डिस्कस कर लिए वर्चुअलाइजेशन के the main advantages of virtualization are storage of increase in equipment utilization rates, conserving data center space, and energy usage. Let's move on to the next slide. Cloud computing, very commonly used nowadays, and a very you can say popular IT hardware infrastructure. Cloud computing is a model of computing in which computer processing, storage, software, and other services are provided as a pool of virtualized resources over a network, primarily the internet. These clouds of computing resources can be accessed on as needed basis from any connected device and location. So basic idea is that you want to use the different resources, computing resources, which are housed at different locations, but you can have access to them by using internet. The US National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, defines cloud computing as having the following uh, essential characteristics. What are the essential characteristics of cloud computing? Number one, on demand and self service. Consumer can obtain computing capabilities such as server time or network storage as needed automatically on their own. So it is basically some service which is available on demand. Ubiquitous network access. Cloud resources can be accessed using standard network and internet devices, including mobile platforms. So basically, your mobile resource, your cloud resources can be accessed from anywhere. That is the idea of ubiquitous network access, that you can access it from your home, from your office, from one city or from the other city, from one country or another country. You can access those resources from anywhere using the standard network and internet devices, and mobile platforms. So the third is location independent resources, resource pooling. Computing resources are pooled to serve multiple users with different virtual resources dynamically assigned according to user demand. The user generally does not know where the computing resources are located. So this is another feature that, for example, Gmail is an example of cloud. So you can access Gmail from anywhere, and you are not you don't the user of the Gmail has no idea that where this email data is stored. The fourth feature is rapid elasticity. Computing resources can be rapidly provisioned, increased or decreased to meet changing user demand. So the idea elastic can be stretched, or it can be uh, the size of it can be reduced or decreased. So similarly, the usage of cloud resources, it can be more, it can be increased if with the increase in requirement, it can be decreased with the decrease in requirement. And the last is measured service. Charges for cloud resources are based on amount of resources actually used. So for example, Gmail, you can see that the basic, or there is a limit of space limit that you can use free, but if you want more larger space, then you have to pay it. So the more the users you need, the more space you need, the more you have to pay. So it is measured service. So these are the five features of cloud computing: on-demand self-service, ubiquitous network access, location-independent resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured service. Now, cloud computing has three different types of services. And the three different types of services that are available using cloud computing include cloud infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service. Now, this infrastructure as a service is useful for customers. The customers use processing, storage, networking, and other computing resources from cloud service provider to run their information system. The infrastructure includes your processors, it can be your storage, it can be networking, or any other resource. For example, Amazon uses the spare capacity of its IT infrastructure to provide a broadly based cloud environment selling IT infrastructure services. These include its simple storage service, S3, for storing customers' data, and its elastic compute cloud, EC2, service for running their applications. User pay only for the amount of computing and storage capacity they actually use. So that is the idea of क्लाउड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज अ सर्विस. ठीक है, सो आपको इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, अपने कंप्यूटिंग का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, दैट यू कैन गेट यू फ्रॉम अ क्लाउड सर्विस प्रोवाइडर. एज द एग्जांपल हियर इज गिवन ऑफ अमेजोन, कि अमेजोन जो है ये सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है, और जहाँ से जो क्लाइंट्स हैं वो स्टोरेज की फैसिलिटी भी ले सकते हैं, और इसी तरीके से अगर वो अपना डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस को रन करना चाहते हैं तो वो फैसिलिटी भी अमेजोन उनको प्रोवाइड करता है over their cloud network. The second type of cloud service is cloud platform as a service. Platform as a service. First one was infrastructure as a service. Now this is platform as a service. Customers use infrastructure and programming tools supported by the cloud service provider to develop their own applications. ठीक है, दोज कस्टमर्स हु वांट टू डेवलप देयर एप्लीकेशंस, उसके लिए उन्हें प्रोग्रामिंग टूल चाहिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, तो वो आपको क्लाउड सर्विस प्रोवाइडर आपको ऑफर कर सकता है. फॉर एग्जांपल, IBM offers a smart business application development and test service for software development and testing on the IBM cloud. IBM is offering this smart business application development and test service for software development. Yeah, so those people, those companies which are involved in software development, they can use this service. Another example is the Salesforce.com, Force.com, which allows developers to build applications that are hosted on its server as a service. Again, here, basically, the second example of Salesforce.com, this is offering a platform to the developers. Okay? So the developers can build applications that are hosted on the server of Salesforce.com. So cloud platform as a service is the second type. The third type of cloud computing service is software as a service. Cloud software as a service. Customer use software hosted by the vendor on the vendor's cloud infrastructure and delivered over a network. Okay? This is an example of cloud software. Leading examples are Google Apps, which provides common business applications online, and Salesforce.com, which also leads customer relationship management and related software services over the internet. अच्छा जी आपके हम ये these are the very common software as a service जो कि Google के apps हम use कर रहे हैं तो all of these apps are available over the internet and we are using them. Some of them are developed for the businesses as well, so businesses are also using that apps. Now those apps are provided by Google and they can be accessed over the internet. Similarly, those businesses which are interested in utilizing customer relationship management software, they can uh, get it over the net, over the cloud from Salesforce.com. Yeah, well, see, they don't need to purchase or get the license of customer relationship management software. Rather, they can lease it or they can rent it from the Salesforce.com. Uh, both charges, both charge users an annual subscription fee. Although Google Apps has also a pared down free version. पार डाउन फ्री वर्जन ठीक है तो कुछ जो बहुत बहुत सारे जो हम यूज कर रहे हैं गूगल के एप्स वो फ्री हैं लेकिन उनमें फुल कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है जब आप अगर उसको फुल कैपेबिलिटी ऐप चाहिए तो देन यू हैव टू पे फॉर इट यूजर्स एक्सेस these applications from a web browser and the data and software are maintained on the provider's remote resources. तो अब यहाँ पे सॉफ्टवेयर एज अ सर्विस में डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस हैं जो कि basically which are maintained on the providers जो cloud service provider है उसके servers के ऊपर वो they are residing there and the customers who want to use it over the cloud they can get access to them but they have to pay uh, as per their usage. So these are the three types of cloud computing services. First one, infrastructure as a service, IaaS. Then platform as a service, PaaS, IaaS, PaaS, and software as a service, SaaS, SaaS. Okay, now here's a diagram that explains the cloud computing. You can see that there is the platform services, then we have application services, different applications are there, and then we have infrastructure services which can be utilized by the business. So there, these three are the different services, and all of them they are there in this. They are residing with the cloud service provider. In cloud computing, hardware and software capabilities are a pool of virtualized resources provided over a network, often the internet. Businesses and employees have access to applications and IT infrastructure anywhere, at any time, and on any device. ठीक है तो ये क्लाउड सर्विस क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग का जो सर्वर है उसके ऊपर ये सारे रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल हैं कोई भी इसको एक्सेस कर सकता है over the internet using desktop, laptop, smartphones can be used, tablet computers can be used, and these three type of services that we discussed: platform as a service, applications as a service, and infrastructure as a service. They can be used by the those who need them. Now, cloud computing can be a cloud can be private or public. A public cloud is owned and maintained by a cloud service provider such as Amazon Web Services and made available to the general public or industry group. Whereas a private cloud is operated solely for an organization. It may be managed by the organization or third party and may exist on premise or off premise. ठीक है तो प्राइवेट क्लाउड जो है दैट इज ऑपरेटेड सोनली फॉर एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पब्लिक क्लाउड जो है वो क्लाउड सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है उसने एक क्लाउड सर्विसेज ऑफर कर रहा है एंड दे आर फॉर द पब्लिक एनीवन कैन एक्सेस देम ठीक है एनीवन कैन गेट access to them through that cloud service provider obviously. जबकि प्राइवेट क्लाउड जो है वो एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने अपने लिए क्रिएट किया है, और वो उनके जो जो प्राइवेट क्लाउड है वो उनका ऑन प्रेमिस भी मैनेज किया जा सकता है और ऑफ प्रेमिस भी उसको मैनेज किया जा सकता है. Like public cloud, private clouds are able to allocate storage, computing power, or other resources seamlessly to provide computing resources on as needed basis. ठीक है, तो यह उसका पर्पस दोनों का सेम ही है, सिर्फ डिफरेंस यही है कि एक्सेस कौन कर सकता है. पब्लिक क्लाउड के लिए कोई भी उसको एक्सेस कर सकता है थ्रू क्लाउड सर्विस प्रोवाइडर, जबकि प्राइवेट क्लाउड जो है दैट इज ओनली एक्सेसिबल फॉर एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और द मेंबर्स ऑफ दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. Companies that want flexible IT resources and a cloud service model while retaining control over their own IT infrastructure are gravitating towards these private clouds. ठीक है, तो सिक्योरिटी ऑब्वियसली ज़्यादा है प्राइवेट क्लाउड्स की, तो इसलिए वो कंपनी जो अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं, और दोज हु वांट flexible IT resources, so they are, you know, tilting towards this private cloud. Uh, Large firms are most likely to adopt a hybrid cloud computing model where they use their own infrastructure for their most essential core activities and adopt public cloud computing for less critical services or for additional processing capacity during peak business periods. Okay, so hybrid model is where you are using both private and public cloud. Private cloud is used for most essential and core activities, whereas the public cloud is used for less critical system. ठीक है, जो जैसे आपको सीजनल रिक्वायरमेंट आ गई कि एक पीक सीजन है, उसके अंदर आपको ज़्यादा प्रोसेसिंग की रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो आप उसमें क्लाउड सर्विस प्रोवाइडर से वो फैसिलिटी ले सकते हैं. और नॉर्मल जो आपका बिजनेस है या नॉर्मल ऑपरेशंस है उसके लिए आप अपने प्राइवेट क्लाउड को यूज़ कर सकते हैं. Cloud computing will gradually shift firms from having a fixed infrastructure capacity toward a more flexible infrastructure. Some of it owned by the firm and some of it rented from giant computer centers owned by computer hardware vendors. ठीक है, तो अब ये क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग की वजह से ये भी आप देख एक ट्रेंड देख रहे हैं कि कंपनीज जो है वो ज़्यादा फ्लेक्सिबल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की तरफ मूव कर रही हैं कि जी उनकी some of the infrastructure they own it, and some of they can the remaining they can rent from the giant computer centers which are owned by computer hardware vendors. So that is pretty much about the cloud computing, and as well as our the part 3 of our lecture on which we were uh, discussing the chapter number 5. ठीक है जी, तो इसमें हमने इस part 3 के अंदर I kept it short and I just discussed the three IT infrastructure uh, trends. Number one was uh, the virtualization. First one we discussed grid computing, then we discussed virtualization, and then we discussed the cloud computing. So that's all about this part 3. We'll be back shortly with the fourth part of this, in which we'll conclude this topic on contemporary IT hardware infrastructures. Thank you very much.